Hi, everybody.
Welcome to FDI Takeover.
I'm your co-host, Alex Smith.
And I'm your other co-host, Karen Ryan. And together we are
FDI Takeover.
Yeah.
Yes, we are getting so much better at that jingle. Welcome to season 2 of FDI Takeover. We have a very, very special guest that is on our show today. Radio and television personality, Drew Haymen. Let's go, baby.
Thank you so much for having me. We appreciate it. Oh, my gosh. And by the way, you guys nailed the intro. I can tell that you spent all of season 1 just practicing that harmony because you nailed it. You nailed it.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. It is our pleasure to have you here.
Yeah.
Before we get started and get into all our topics about what FDI is, I would love for you to share just a little bit about you just in general, why you're on FDI today. Let's go.
So I am a media personality. I do radio and television, radio being my only thing I'm decent at in life, I feel like. I've done radio for 10 years with iHeartRadio. And yeah, I do the afternoon show for Y100. I'm the music director, and I also do a nationally syndicated weekend show on over 50 stations for iHeart. So I do television as well for Inside SoFlo and NBC6.
Nice.
So yeah, I enjoy it. I love it. When you guys hit me up about doing this, I'm like, yo, I listen to the podcast. It's super dope. You guys do such a great job. I've learned a ton, just like I'm sure your viewers hit you guys with all this feedback about things that they've learned. So, to be a part of this and to learn from you guys, I'm super grateful. So again, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you here. I think the important message for the public is that our whole mission is to FDI it, right? Fucking do it. So the three of us on our own missions in life have taken it next level by letting go of fear and releasing anything that was holding us back and actually doing it. And that's why we're here to present this to you and give you the energy and this vibrational wonderment, actually, of you are capable of anything. Just do it. So that's why we're here. Today's topic that we will be talking about is burnout. So get ready for some good insight to help you learn how not to be so burnt out.
Yes, and there is a huge epidemic that has been brought about over the last couple of years since the pandemic around the topic burnout culture. So, for our parents probably growing up, they never heard this term burnout, right? But for a lot of people that are coming up in the generations, and even for us, we hear this term a lot, burnout culture. So what does it actually really mean? How are people actually really affected by this? And most importantly, how can we reverse having a culture that is heavily rooted in us being exhausted and overworked and perhaps in situations that we shouldn't be in? And so today we want to shed a big white light on this topic and how we can essentially do better to get ourselves out of this. So first and foremost, just to kick us off, Drew, what does the term burnout mean to you?
I mean, and for me, in radio and television, I feel like we are all super burnt out. When you guys hit me up about this topic, I'm like, oh, this is so perfect. This is so perfect. And you tagged me in a meme, I think it was yesterday, and it's about when you take that vacation, right? You're supposed to take that vacation when the meter's not all the way burnt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we don't do that. Like, as a culture, I think right now, with things are, and listen, life's expensive, right? You have to go to work. People are gunning for your job. You got to outwork the person next to you. I think first of all, burnout culture is generational. Our generation, we overwork ourselves quite a bit. We worry about that a lot. This younger generation coming up, it's a little bit different for them because I think that they're And I love it, but I think that their work ethic is a little bit different. Like, burnout doesn't hit them as much because they're very conscious of, like, I need to take time off. I have to do that. We weren't, us growing up, I don't think that we thought about that. It was just like work, get it from morning till night, and wake up, wash, rinse, repeat. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what we do. So, I mean, burnout is just, to me, it's employees who are just stressed out more than usual. It's people who are exhausted at work. They're unable to concentrate, irritable, unmotivated. And it starts with the employer, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely. Being entrepreneurs, we make our own hours and our own time, but we have also been in the corporate world, and, I do represent brands that I am accountable for, but, it's so important to take those mental breaks. And I think that's what happened after the last 3 years of basically the world just having to stop and get started again, the younger generation is more conscious of their mental health, whereas we continue to go and go and go until we can't go anymore. Literally a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was in Sarasota and I was very sick. I was sick for 2 days, couldn't do anything. And then everyone's telling me, Karen, you're burnt out. I'm like, well, burnt out from what? I gotta take this email, I gotta take this call and do whatever. I think it's important that we start to get back to our physical health, our mental health, and taking these little breaks for ourselves so we don't get to that point. But a lot of it has to do with social media, and a lot of it has to do with the immediate access to whatever we want is right there on the phone.
Yeah, and speaking of social media, is it us seeing other people living their life like the Kardashians, right? Who are highlighted all the time, and you're like, I want that. I want that house. I want that car. You know, is it that we're being force-fed all these incredible things and we're able to see everything because we're scrolling through social media all the time? So is that the mindset that we're like, you know, I got to wake up. I got to go to work. I have to do this 6 days a week because I want the house. I want the car. You know, that type of thing. I wonder if it's, you know, the internet plays into burnout.
I absolutely think that it perpetuates the issue that we have. So there was a Gallup survey done of about 10,000 employees on this topic around what burnout culture is and what are some of the leading indicators that continuously make this an issue. And it was 5 big things that they zoomed in on. So number 1, it was unfair treatment at work. Number 2, it was an unmanageable workload, which is a lot of what we're talking about today. The third one was lack of clarity. The fourth one was lack of communication and support. And the fifth one was unreasonable time pressure. Now, considering those are the top 5 reasons, and now let's economically look at what's happening within this last year in 2023, there's been over 1,500 organizations in 2023 alone that have done massive layoffs. And there has been about 270,000 people that have been laid off from work this year. So when you combine those two things together, it's like a Killanova effect. It's like you're not doing enough, but then you live in fear that you're going to get laid off. So you're trying more and more and more. And it creates this unhealthy ecosystem of people who are just zombies going through the motions. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I agree completely. And now more than ever, I feel like you're more of a number at work than you are an employee and a family. And a lot of that's because, and I'm lucky because in my industry, it's not like this as much, but people I talk to, their bosses are working from home. They're not necessarily coming in. Your FaceTime with your boss isn't necessarily what it used to be. So it makes you feel like a number. You see your coworkers getting fired, businesses downsizing. So it's like it plays into this whole thing where you just don't want to take a day off. You're like, if I take too much time off, somebody's going to want my job. Right. You know, and you know, God forbid I get laid off.
That's the truth. I think, and that goes back to my whole point of being fearless. I truly live my life fearlessly through a lot of things that have happened in my life. But when you release fear, everything is possible. So in the workplace, what's happening is they can cut you out at any time. And now you're gone. Yeah. So guess what? You are just a number, and your time is ticking. You've got an expiration date. And when people go to work and they're putting all into it, but they're not feeling like they are receiving what they're putting in, that's where it comes back to finding your purpose. And that's where we come back to just fucking doing it. What makes you happy? You know, do you like to take care of people? Do you want to do this? What is your real purpose? And when you find work with that, you'll get paid for it, but you'll be having a purpose to be with your work and your job.
Have you found your real purpose? What is it?
Thanks, Drew, for asking. My real purpose, I truly will tell you, is to inspire people. I'm here on this earth to inspire people to truly let fear go and not be judgmental and to forgive others. Because when you release all of that on a cellular level, you're here and everything that you want is possible. It took me a long time to figure that out. Yeah. I mean, but I do know that I'm here to inspire. That's my purpose.
What do you think?
So about my purpose or what she said?
No, about your purpose. I'm sorry, I'm putting everybody on
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, you know, Drew, my purpose, in a sense, is still being discovered, right? So as a young woman who just turned 34, hey.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Really happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Libras, let's go. Yeah. So for me, I am continuously still sticking in my hands in things that I am curious about, right? And I think it does come back to curiosity. I think a lot of people right now are doing whatever they need to do to get by. for me, I am taking a different path in the sense where I'm not necessarily thinking about stability as much anymore, but I'm thinking more about what makes me feel creative, what makes me activate my spirituality, what makes me feel healthy. And so I'm letting those three things first and foremost guide what it ends up putting me into, which is podcasting. And now, big headline update, by the way, I had left, the company that I was working for, big tech, Fortune 100 for the last 5 years to go all into my own business, which is a whole new journey. Yes. Entrepreneurs in the house. It is the most humbling experience of my life. No one told me it was going to be this hard and crazy, but my purpose is to have courage.
I love it.
That's really the biggest thing for me right now. And then, of course, I hope to inspire, guide, and support people along the way. What about you, Drew? What's your purpose?
First of all, I want to say this. I love that you said that because not everybody has figured it out yet. And that's completely okay.
Absolutely not.
That's
don't have it figured
okay. Out. It's taken me so long to figure out what it is for me that like really drives me. But for me, my goal in life is to rid people of concern. So like,
tell us more about that.
Yeah.
It's just, being on the radio, sometimes I have 10 seconds to talk. Sometimes I have a minute. And my goal is somebody that's driving home on a Monday when they're ready to just jump out of their skin because they had one of those days. If I can say one thing to take them away from their daily grind of like, oh, I'm burnt out, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, my mission is accomplished, So it's just to rid people of concern for, even if it's 10 seconds at a time, so the breaks that I do on the radio and the television and all that kind of stuff, I really try to put a lot of TLC into what I'm doing and be conscious of what I'm saying because, people are listening and I have this platform where Y100, if you're from South Florida, you've listened to that radio station for a number of years and I want to be, that station's been going on for 50, we just celebrated our 50-year anniversary.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank
Big
you.
shout out to Y100. I've been listening to them since day one.
And I hear that all the time. I run into people constantly, and for me it's like, as I do the afternoon show by myself 2 to 7 Monday through Friday, and I'm such a small blip of this like legacy that is Y100. So if I can rid people of concern and make people feel good and empower people like what you guys are doing on this podcast, mission accomplished. Yeah. So that's kind of my goal and my mindset when I go into work every day, and I'm super grateful that I have the platform to be able to do that. You know what I mean?
What do you think? So that is a really big responsibility that you've given yourself, right? So you are an anchor for people who are also going through burnout culture, but what do you do as a person to get yourself in a space where they say the saying is that you can't fill an empty cup. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to fill yourself up so that way you're able to provide this space for people?
I smoke weed. Can I say that? I don't know.
Hell yeah, you can fucking say anything you want on this podcast.
Oh yeah, that definitely helps out. I feel like I have such a great
I
have such a great structure of friends that for me, I get a lot of fulfillment and being around my friends, my family. I have 2 beautiful little daughters.
Yes.
Spending time with them, my fiance. There's just, I'm Italian. Family is everything.
Oh.
Doing the Sunday dinners is very important for me. I feel fulfilled, but it's tough because I work in an industry where the more work you put in, the bigger you're going to get. The more events that I host, and you guys see my Instagram, and, it's go, 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 go. I'm DJing, I'm hosting events, I'm doing the show, television. It's nonstop. But you have to, I'm a nightmare of the guy that can be like, okay, I got to pump the brakes. I have such a hard time doing that. Yeah. I really do. So when you hit me with this, with what we want to talk about today, I was like, oh my God, this is like, I really need to think about this because I go through this quite a bit on a daily basis. But yeah, for me, it's just, it's being around family, being around friends, and finding spaces that I can just kind of breathe. You know what I mean? The beach is a spot for me that I go and just sit and breathe. You know what I mean? And I just built, so a lot of people, I've done research on this, and a lot of people have like a sanctuary at their house, and maybe it's a waterfall that they've built that they sit next to. I just built this tiki hut at my house, right?
For the party.
Bro,
Let's go.
yes. Luau coming soon. But I have this tiki hut now.
I'm there if you're DJing. This guy's a hell of a DJ.
Hella DJ.
But I built this little sanctuary at my house now under my tiki hut where I just like can lay on this couch and I have a TV and I just kind of veg out and that kind of helps me reset a little bit and rid myself of concern, I guess.
Yes. The sanctuary is really important. On my patio, I actually found I'm known to finding things in the trash. I have not paid for anything. I find everything away in
not men, but things for her house,
for my home. And so I found these shelves, and I've got my Buddha on there, my plants. It's my little sanctuary. But I like what you said, Drew, before about it's taking the time to like find for yourself how you can just take a few breaths, right? So for me, I literally, as a certified yoga instructor and quantum healer, shoemaker with no shoes. So I have to catch myself every once in a while to take a nice deep breath in, a nice deep breath out. Mm-hmm. Getting up to watch sunrise, taking a few moments to write my book, but getting back to family. We too are also Italian, very into family. And it's so important of who you surround yourself with, right? So not to get too burnt out, there are people that suck the energy out of us, right? And so we have to kind of be careful of who we are surrounding ourselves with. Totally. Be selective of those who are allowed to be into our own sanctuary of our energy. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. And we're talking a lot about what we do individually to combat this epidemic of burnout culture, but let's talk about the real people who might need to hear this message, which is employers. So so this is where we're going to go. So employers have a responsibility to change their culture 100%. And we are moving into 2024. So you know who you are if you are outdated. But there are so many different ways in which that you can be more flexible to people in order to accommodate the different levels of absentee that are happening right now. We talk about low performance. It's mind-boggling to me because when you think about it, if people are happy and healthy, they're typically high performing.
Totally.
So how do we get into this place where employers understand and recognize that and they loosen the grip a little bit? How many people have gone back into the workplace for no reason other than the fact that like they just have real estate and they want to be able to keep people there?
Totally. I mean, it's interesting too because you hear and see on TikTok about people working for companies like Google.
Yes.
And they can take this break and they play ping pong and they have this cafeteria where coffee's free and all this kind of stuff, and
sounds nice.
That's the new wave, I think. That's the new wave of like what, the industry standard should be, and on the other side of that, not to like throw shade, but you have Amazon who's constantly being critiqued for, overworking their employees and unfortunately, like that's almost like they're looked as a successful business in business standards, right?
Right.
So I feel like more businesses need to go into like that whole Google mindset where there's a break room for people to be able to connect with everybody. I also think that like obviously a manageable workload and schedule, that's a no-brainer. Like
super reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's actually it's a no-brainer. And then limit the meetings, of course, like discourage emails and text messages during off hours and actually like lead by example. Like, right? It goes back to the
calling
managers.
all leaders.
Right.
Yes.
Lead by example. Like this is your job. So make sure that your leaders have such the ability to make sure that their employees are healthy and happy and able to take time off, check in and ask the questions. Hey, are you okay? You doing okay? Do you need a break? My boss does that to me.
Yeah.
She's like, you've DJ'd since last Thursday every night. You're doing the show. Are you good? I go, yeah, I'm fine. No, you're not. You're not fine. Take a couple days off, And I think that's important. And I think not enough bosses are doing that.
Yeah, no, I love all of this. And like Alex, like you said, it's like there is a responsibility for employers, for their employees. If you're not happy, you're not going to perform well. And then everything just kind of goes down like a domino effect. But to be in a leadership position, some people think, oh, I've got this title and I'm this and I'm that. Okay, keep the titles to yourself. Work on yourself personally so that you can be a strong leader that people can learn from and then get those whatever you're teaching them to be able to do themselves. Because my mother once said, you want to be a leader or you want to be a follower?
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that most employees know exactly what they need to be successful. You know what I mean? So I just think the open dialogue of conversation of just saying, how are you? Like that doesn't happen enough.
the actual connection, the genuine connection that seems to be dissipating these days because we're all behind technology for the most part, or meeting remotely. Things get lost in text, things get lost through all the different communication systems that we have now. But we're so quick to jump into business. That's the other thing, right? So it doesn't matter if you're the employee or the leader on that side, you also, and I want to empower people who are also maybe not in a quote unquote title of leadership, but you absolutely have the power to change the dynamic of what's happening by breaking the spell in some way and being that person to ask their boss, how are you actually doing? Like, what's going on with your family? How is your life outside of work? I would love to know, what are some of the things that you're really passionate about? It doesn't have to always be the other way around.
Right.
So I think we have to encourage people that we all have the power to break this by setting the example.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the biggest things that we can do. But Drew, I've been wanting to ask you this for such a long time. So I want to know more about, how did you actually get into radio? How did you become this person? So many of us hear your voice, we know you, and I would love to know why, how you got into it.
Yeah, so I was up in Orlando, actually, and I took an internship with a radio station because I was working. I'm a server. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to school for audio production to set up things like this, and podcasting wasn't a thing at that. This is 15 years ago, okay? 12 years ago. And I did an internship where I was literally just like washing station vehicle cars and getting people coffee, doing all the cliche things that like you do when you're an intern. And I just fell in love with radio. I would sleep in studios and I would learn what the buttons do, and I just fell in love with it. And I made no money for so long in radio, and I was completely okay with that because, I'm in a space where, I am supporting myself. I'm eating ramen noodles every night, but I'm going to work and I'm so happy about going to work. And I was also a server and that kind of thing. And one thing led to the next. Joined the promotions team, still washing station vehicles. I got doing overnights, and I put a lot of radio stations off air, not knowing exactly what I was doing. And then I applied for a job in Miami. And they go, what do you think? Would you move down to South Florida? I was living in Orlando at the time. I'm from here originally. So I'm like, bro, my parents live in Lauderdale. Like, I'd love to come to South Florida. Y100, I grew up listening to that station. Like, this is crazy. So they moved me down. And I came down, and I moved on a Friday. I left my old radio group, which was Cox Radio, and I came down to iHeart, which was Clear Channel at the time, and I took that job at a very low level position. I was a promotions guy and back washing station vehicles again, just here in Miami.
Out there in the streets of downtown Fort Lauderdale, baby.
That's right.
That's it. Automatic Slims.
That's right.
Art Bar.
Yeah, and
we're from here.
I always DJ'd. I always emceed events and stuff, and that helped me get by and pay the bills. But I always wanted to continue to learn radio, and finally it happened. A guy gave me a shot, and I did. Somebody called out, actually. So my birthday is Christmas Day, and one of the guys called out Christmas Day. And I am middle of celebrating my birthday. It's Christmas. And my boss texts me and goes, yo, this guy just called out. I need somebody to fill in. It's going to be your first Y100 shift. What do you think? I'm like, bro, on my way.
Yes.
Christmas Day. I'm in my car. I go up there.
Fucking doing it.
Yeah.
Fucking doing it.
So I went up there and did it. And, that was the first shift. And it felt great. And, it eventually led to overnights. I grew this brand called Drew on the Streets, where I would go out, give people tickets, and I was everywhere from Homestead to Boca, posted up, giving people tickets, doing the overnight show, and that led to me to where I am now, which is the afternoon show on Y100 and music director, and it's been a long road, and I feel like people may be listening going, you're talking about burnout culture, and you work on the radio. Like, how stressful can working? You just talk on the radio. It's a little different. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of weight. That goes into doing the right thing, saying the right things. It's high burn.
We just posted on FDI, and I think I did on my personal as well. Was I'm too much. Right? People are going to say, like, you're too much. People can criticize and say whatever they want. Get behind this mic and do it.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Okay. It's not easy what any of us do because we're out in the public eye. Mm-hmm. We are famous, for real. People know who we are. They see us. And it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you shared your story about starting from the bottom, the way up. That's the only way it's going to work in life. You have to start from the bottom and work your way up.
Totally.
You stay humble, you stay grateful, you stay kind, and then things just, they're more gravitated towards you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the tough things about being on radio and television that I feel like people don't necessarily see a lot is that everybody, let's say you work in the office, you know, and everybody has a bad day every once in a while, you know, and you can sit in your cubicle and you can just feel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you're in front of a microphone and you have to be on, you know, and you wake up and you have one of those days where you're like, I can't even get out of bed today, you know, and you have to do a 5-hour radio show where you have to be on and ridding people of concern every single break, you know, that's when it hits you and you're like, man, okay, there are real ups and downs with this career, you know, and that's probably been my hardest thing to deal with within radio and television is just having those days that you have, you know, everybody has them, and you just got to suck it up and not feel and go, you know what I'm saying?
No excuses.
Exactly, no excuses.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love about you, Drew, is that you're so open about talking about these things first and foremost, especially as a man, because I think that there is a new wave of, you know, expression that's coming from our very supportive men's group, and we're big mental health men's advocates. And so we love that.
Yeah.
One of the things that Drew does really well, I have to give you a plug here, is that you have an amazing way of transforming hard times and hard things into humor. You have to follow him on his Instagram, Drew On Air.
Yeah.
Where do you get? He is hilarious. My God, where do you come up with this stuff?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Again,
So funny.
it goes off of ridding people of concern. You know, it's taking
Your passion.
everyday things and just finding the humor and highlighting that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always two ways to look at everything. You know, you could look at it the negative way, or you could look at it in a positive light and make it fun and funny and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. It goes into my goal, and you know, it's another thing that I can do that's not radio or television that I can, you know, help people kind of go away from their day and, you know, and watch my reels and watch my goofy shit that, you know, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this is actually funny, but let's post it and see if people like it. I don't know, you know, but yeah, you know, I'm having a good time with it. Like, I'm really enjoying doing the social media stuff. It's been a lot of fun. For years it was work, you know, and I hated posting things, and I'm like, oh, but now it's just like it's become a part of me, and I feel like people are calling into the show going, oh my God, I just saw that reel about, you know, your girl and how you eat and da da da.
Yes.
And I thought it was
Regular, everyday shit.
yeah,
too.
yeah. I mean, I try to share that, and I also try to share a piece of my personal life. I don't like posting my kids a ton.
No.
But my daughter Giovanna has, like, I mean, she's been on my Instagram a couple times. She has gone completely viral on my Instagram a couple times, and you know, it's pissed off part of the family. I gotta be honest with you.
Italians get a little crazy.
Yeah, they're like, you can't post your kid all the time, that kind of thing. But it's like, you know, people constantly call in the show and ask about her, and they want to know. And you know, recently we did a video. You know, her school is on lock. She's 4. Yeah. You know, she's 4 years old. Her school is on lockdown, and there was a guy that robbed a place and ran through her school. And they all had to be on the ground. They closed all the windows. They put them all in the closet. And she came home crying and talking about this story. And I brought it to radio too, because I thought it was very interesting. Because it's kind of the norm now, you know, like preparing for something like a lockdown. And she's 4 years old and knows the term lockdown and what it is, and that there's a bad guy at the school, that kind of thing. So you know, I share that part on my social media too, just to balance it out, you know what I mean? Like, I balance the fun with like the reality of like, you know, being a dad of 2 and dealing with things like that, you know, and you know, posting a video of her going, I don't want to go to school today because yesterday we had a lockdown and we were all on the floor and it was scary and it was dark and that kind of thing. So, you know, I try to balance it out with the fun and the funny with the, you know, real life shit that happens in my life. So
Yeah.
Like
Alex said, I mean, we are big mental health advocates for men, especially because I feel that the world is trying to demasculize men, and not going to happen. You being a father and actually not sheltering or, be like a helicopter parent over your daughter, actually explaining to her, this is what happened, this is what the outcome is, giving her that time. We have to show children the reality of how things are and not hide them from it, because they have access literally to picking up and figuring anything out. The more authentic we are as parents, mental health wise, so that our children don't grow up to be burnouts, is to allow them the time to take to heal during those processes.
Absolutely.
I did a little research with the WHO, so which is the World Health Organization. They define burnout as it's a symptom that goes into an official syndrome unless if you change the trajectory of how you are managing your mental health.
And that's really interesting in a sense, because there's an argument to be made that, as parents, right, they say that even mental health is generational, right? So if you grow up with a parent who's super depressed, or if you grow up with a parent who's super burnt out, which, there's some characteristics that fit under that category, that you're able to pass it on to the people around you, which I think is a scary realization about how powerful our actions and the way that we're choosing to approach life every day can negatively affect the people that we love. So if you're thinking about, how to be the example, what are some of the things that you think as a father that you would want to see changed for young children?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we move forward, therapy becomes more widely accepted versus taboo, which it has been for a number of years. So I think this new generation really gets it, that you have to take the time for yourself, whether it's therapy, whether it's finding that space that we spoke about earlier. But I truly believe in therapy. I started doing therapy for myself when my father passed away, just for grief counseling, that type of thing, because I hadn't really, I didn't feel like I was dealing with it the right way. I just worked. I found out my father passed when I was in the studio at Y100, and I knew he was sick. It was a very traumatic way that he passed. He had this sickness, this illness that really hit him, and a month later, it was like he was sick. A month later, he had passed, and it hit so fast, and I just wanted to go back to work. I'm like, I can bury myself in work. I don't have to deal with these feelings. It's fine, And I think about a month or two later, I started crashing and burning, and somebody goes, dude, you need to go talk to somebody. So for me, therapy really, that was the first time I did. My father passed 3 years ago in December, and I've done therapy throughout. And I feel like, it started there, and then the ball kind of got rolling, and I was like, I really like being able to talk to somebody that's not going to judge me, that doesn't know me as Drew from Y100, that I can just be like, put my feet up and go, oh, here's my issues today.
Yeah.
And they give you very non-biased feedback, and I appreciate that. So I think, tying into your question, I think that we need to really promote therapy, and the fact that it's there, you can get so much out of it just talking to somebody.
Yeah. That's where we're at with FDI. We're looking for sponsorship. We're looking for people to help us with finances so that we can have it put in an account so that people who can't afford mental health, we would be there to be able to sponsor and help you get the help that you need if you don't have access to it. Therapy is huge in healing. I too, for years, as the old-fashioned saying would be, just sweep it under the rug, worked to make all those feelings disappear. But now, at my age, they resurfaced. So back in therapy.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've actually been in therapy my entire life, but that's to a privilege, right? So I had access to that. I had parents who had put me into that therapy very young, because I had a very traumatic childhood when I was growing up. And it's interesting now because it's always been a huge part of my life, but I've been so happy to see other people, especially men, be more accepting to the idea of sharing their feelings. What do you think are some of the biggest barriers as to why men don't feel that therapy is kind of beneath them, or there's still a lot of stigma around that? And why do you think that is? Do you think it's a gender role situation, or?
I just think it's generational. I just think the new generation, is more accepting. You see it on TikTok, you see it on Instagram, you hear people talking about it. The older generation, it was a little bit taboo. So I think that, even at my age, you're sitting around with the guys, you're watching football, you go Dolphins. Nobody's going, I gotta go see my therapist tomorrow, so I can't be here all day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like
I
that.
gotta go talk about my feelings. I'll be right back.
Right, exactly. So it is still a little bit like taboo, but it shouldn't be. You know, I love therapy. I've gotten a lot out of it. This new generation, and people can talk as much as they want about this new generation, and they don't want to work. But there's a lot of things that they actually get. And there's a lot of things that we can learn from this generation, and they're very accepting of this whole just the fact that you need to take time for yourself. You need to go to therapy. You need all that kind of stuff. I think they really nailed that, and we can learn from this new generation, especially in particular the men. You know, you should go to therapy. You should be open to it. I tell you what, when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go see a therapist, and it was my first session, I'm like. I walked in there like, I know I'm not going to like this. I know I'm not going to like this, but I'm going to try it. And I think...
Do you have a woman or a male therapist?
A woman. Maggie.
Yeah,
she's
we
amazing.
love that.
Yeah. And
shout out.
Yeah. And I think that I walked out of that hour and I'm like, I just feel like a weight has lifted off my shoulders. Yeah. That's how I felt, you know? And I'm like, man, it was almost like a reset. And I had things to walk out of that room to work on, you know, from an unbiased perspective. So for me, you know, I can vent to my mother all the time, but she's always going to have my back and go,
yep.
You know, it's not unbiased. You know, she's like, you're doing great. This person will empower you and give you the real. And I think that's what we need to be able to successfully move forward.
Yeah,
so.
No, I agree totally with that because, like, being a mom, of course, I'm always there for my kids, you know, 24/7, whatever they need. And us being Italian, we get into our, you know, our little things, especially all being girls, you know. But therapy is so important. And I want to make this really imperative to people that you're not dumping on somebody, right? You know, Alex and I, thank God brought us together as sisters. We are very real with each other and we're there for each other to the end of the day, forever, for life. But I can only tell her so much. Right? Because I don't want to bring her down or like, you know, the same repetitive is like, Karen, you did this again. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's to talk to your therapist. So going to see my therapist in Chicago on Tuesday. I'm very excited about that. But
wait, you have therapists in other states?
I have therapists.
Wherever you go, you have a therapist? That's
awesome.
awesome.
That's actually the way to roll these days now,
yeah.
just in case you need the help anywhere.
Yeah. Shout out to Allie, the Chicago hypnotherapist. She's amazing. I have therapists in different states.
Good for you.
Yes.
I love that.
And I like the face-to-face, you know, not just doing over the Zoom.
Me too.
But it's important.
Do you lay on the couch? That was my first question when I walked into therapy. I'm like, am I supposed to because, you know, in the movies, you see, like, everybody lays down.
Yeah.
And they put their hands, like, over their chest.
Yeah.
And they're not talking, but they're speaking out.
Yeah.
They're looking at the ceiling, you know. I'm like, do I lay? Like, how do I do this? And she's like, no.
And then the therapist is there just scribing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Putting the eyeglasses down and listening.
Sitting on the chair, notepad, the whole nine. For those who haven't done therapy, you don't lay. You sit, right? It's standard to sit, yeah.
Well, I did see a psychiatrist after my divorce, and I laid down, and I was very comfortable, and I just laid there.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, I felt safe, and it was good, and then I was like, I'm getting a little bit of a rest.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, looking at my watch, got to get back to those kids. Let's make this quick, you know. So you pop up and you tell your feelings.
I'd be afraid of falling asleep.
Well, if it's hypnosis, that's different. There's so many different types of therapy out there. So, like, obviously, we're talking about traditional talk therapy.
Right.
But there's hypnosis therapy, there's EMDR therapy, there's RMT therapy, and different therapists that specialize in different areas of trauma. So, specifically, the therapist that I see right now specializes in two very specific things: childhood trauma and sexual abuse. So, those two things, that's what she does. So, anybody that's new, you know, if there is anything specific that has happened to you, there are therapists that are out there that specialize very much in a specific area, or grief, right? Yeah. So you got to do your research for sure. And, you know, of course, insurance and different things that are out there, you know, it's not an easy world to navigate. So just brace yourself. It can be a little bit discouraging when you're getting out there because you're calling places, they're not getting back to you. You're like, I'm trying to get help.
Right.
Don't get discouraged.
You brought up a really good point. And it's that do your research. Like, sit
Yes.
down with these therapists. It's okay to leave a session and go, this is not my person.
Yeah, you can date around.
Totally. Dating, yes.
Yeah, dating. It's like
Inter-
different
interviewing.
therapists.
It's like Tinder with therapists. It's great. I was lucky because I walked out of my first one and I'm like, okay, this is my person. You're great. Like, this is gonna work out awesome. But I also know a lot of people that, you know, they sit with somebody and their first date is a nightmare and they're like, okay, this is not my person.
Right.
I'm gonna go on to the next. So
Yeah.
it's very important that you do your research and figure out somebody that can, you know, assist you with what you're specifically going through.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other big thing too, especially as we wrap up here, is that I would love to leave the audience with one thing that we think that we can do that will help support people who are experiencing burnout. So we talked about therapy being one of them. I would say that for me also, meditation is really huge. It's a big, there's so many, not a lot of people can afford therapy, right? So there's a lot of different free accesses out there to meditation resources through YouTube that you can start to sit and be still and start to breathe and help regulate your nervous system in a way that helps create clarity. It helps calm you and, you know, brings you back into a place where you can face, you know, the hard things that we're going to do on a day-to-day basis. So I would say that would be one of my pieces that I would, you know, ask people to, you know, try if you've never done it before. What about you, Karen?
Mine would be journaling, just writing things down. I mean, paper, you know, pen to paper, you're taking what's inside your head and you're actually making it concrete. So it's not just in your head and you're writing it out. Journaling is huge. And it can be a little scary because you're going to be saying the things that are actually you're feeling, but you're getting it on paper and it just helps. They say to keep a notebook and a pen by your bedside or before you go to bed, get all that out and write. So journaling's mine.
Yeah, for sure. I personally think that, like, when you're burnt out and you've had enough, like, we often think burnout as like an individual problem. But I really think that it's the problem of the employer and the employee. You know, like, you can do all these things, and you guys named incredible things to try to do to relax. But I really think ultimately it's not your fault.
Okay,
There we
let's
go.
double down on
Yeah.
that. It is not your fault and
Yeah.
totally your responsibility. It
Yeah.
absolutely is in the hands of many other people.
Right. I think it falls on other people. So don't my advice would be don't be down on yourself. You get burnt out, you forget to take vacation, you know. I think it's really the employer's fault, and I think leaders need to do a better job of leading
Yes.
and opening
By
that
example.
facts and just opening that door of a conversation to say, how are you mentally, life good, what's happening, that kind of thing, you know, because if you open the door, you can walk through it and go, yeah, no, I'm really in a space right now where, you know, it's tough to deal and I need to take a couple days,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. So
Well said.
Absolutely. So, Drew, before we wrap up here, you did say before we prepped for this podcast, you're like, are you two okay if I put you in the hot seat?
yes,
For anything that comes to your mind. So, speak now or forever hold your peace.
What's your favorite thing? Good. I get to interview the interview.
Yeah, we're switching this up.
What's your favorite thing happening right now in pop culture? What is your favorite thing? You're watching all these things unfold, and there's a lot happening right now. I feel like between Britney Spears and Taylor Swift is everywhere, and the whole nine. What are you guys entangled with?
I have to be completely honest with you that right now I am so not entangled with pop culture because I am so entangled with the war that is happening in our world right now, which I know is, I'm taking it the other way. But truly right now, I feel like that is what is suffocating my social media. That is what's suffocating the news that I'm getting. And I'm just overwhelmed. So I actually have like really put the phone down, I would say, in the last couple of weeks, because
you.
if you've been following everything that's been happening, it seems to be consuming everything out there.
Totally.
So for me, that's been, you know, probably the biggest thing. But yeah, so I'm boring and I have no pop culture references. So basically, it's the headline.
It's important to be up on that. Karen,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Well, first of all, I don't own a television. My TV broke when I was 11 years old.
This is going so well.
My dad said, get your ass to the library. So I just went to the library and started reading. So
Good.
I don't even own a television. If I want to watch anything, it has to be on Netflix or something. So as far as
Love Island.
Love Island.
The last 20 seasons have been my pop culture.
But I am updated on a lot of things. I really love Taylor Swift. Okay.
Yeah.
I think she's amazing. And I think that she has brought a level to just people around the world. She just keeps showing up and showing up and showing up. And she's a great example of, you can talk and say everything you want to say about me, but I'm still here. I'm still showing up. I like her and Selena Gomez. I've listened to her and I watch her on her reels on Instagram, and she's just so sweet. She's like, a lot of people don't like me, but at the end of the day, I'm still here.
Yes.
You know? So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Ooh, wait. Drew, I have something. I did see something recently about Jason Aldean talking about white privilege, and I was like, that's interesting, coming from like a country man, different point of view. So
Yeah.
I wanted to read up a little bit more on that because I think that's an important topic. And traditionally, white privilege has, people from the South get, kind of on blast for being the ones who, perpetuate that. So
Absolutely. I want to give you guys a little bit of homework, okay?
Okay.
Because I
You
think
write this down,
this
Karen.
I
Write
would,
this down.
I have a pen.
As a listener of the FDI, I would love to hear you guys talk about this because I've been obsessed with it. Britney Spears just released a memoir where she really dives into her mental health and what it was like to be under the conservatorship and somebody at her level. Do you guys follow her? I don't know.
I do.
Yes.
I love Britney Spears. Fallon, my oldest daughter, she's our girl.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
But what you see on social media now with the knives and with all this stuff,
Yes.
it's wild. Like there's obviously something going on there mentally. And I'd love to say I'm reading her book, but I'm listening to it on audio, right?
Yeah.
But
honest.
it's absolutely incredible. And I would love to hear you guys cover that in one of your podcasts down the road and just kind of dissect what she's going through because I think that you guys have do a great job, first of all, with the podcast and I love your takes on everything. And this is pop culture, and we're seeing this unfold in front of everybody. And it goes back to us talking about the fact that therapy is a little bit taboo. Now, this is somebody who is. This is Britney Spears.
Yeah.
I mean,
Legend.
she's on a level
Getting
that
chills, yeah.
most people will never see, and the amount of therapy and the amount of trauma that she's had, and it's all laid out in this book, and it's pretty incredible to hear the story. So let's cover that.
Yes. Have you seen the David Beckham documentary on Netflix?
No, I heard it's incredible though.
It's so incredible. And I think for, anybody who has been an athlete or has done anything that grueling out in the public, I mean, even just from an international standpoint, the amount of pressure that comes from running on a sports team is out of control. And I think he does an amazing job of painting the picture around men's mental health. Again, it was very much like all the years and all the struggle swept under the rug while the crowd was just mad at him for years. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So we should cover more of that. We're going to cover more pop culture. We
I
got
like
this.
it.
Yeah,
I
we'll
like
take
it.
that
Stay
note.
tuned. We just kicked off season dose, baby.
Yes, we did. Oh my gosh, Drew. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. We appreciate it.
Yes. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for following FDI Takeover. We will see you soon back in the studio. Peace and love.
Lots of love.